Welcome friends. Now let us see the amendments with respect to your November 22 exams for your offences and penalties chapter. So when you talk about your offences and penalties, the major amendments, the only amendments are there in your section 129, which talks about detention, seizure and release of goods and conveyance in transit. Also when you talk about your section 130, so which talks about basically confiscation of your goods and conveyance and levy of penalty. So it is talking about section 129 and section 130 amendments. Now when you talk about your section 129, let us first discuss the amendment which has come in your section 129 subsection 1. Basically when you talk about section 129 subsection 1, there are two categories of penalty. One is 129 1A and one is 129 1B. And in both the cases, they have not amended, they have not touched the penalty with respect to exempt goods. For exempt goods, now one may ask what is 129 1A and what is 129 1B. So when the owner is coming forward, it is section 129 1A. When the owner is not coming forward, the penalty will be higher, it is section 129 1B. So with respect to your exempt goods, the penalty was earlier 2% of the value of goods or 25,000, whichever is less, not higher. When you talk about your exempt goods, it is still the same. For exempt goods, when the owner is not coming forward, it is doubled. So it's not now 2%, it's not more than double, 5% of the value of goods or 25,000, whichever is less. So if the owner is coming forward, for exempt goods, it is 2% of the value of goods or 25,000, which is less. This is CGST penalty, copy paste SGST penalty. This is CGST penalty and copy paste would be the SGST penalty. For situation where owner is not coming forward, the penalty was 5% of the value of goods or 25,000, which was less. This is CGST penalty, copy paste would be the SGST penalty. So there is no change. So where is the change? Rather, the change is in taxable goods. If it is taxable goods, earlier when the owner is coming forward, if at all the owner is coming forward, earlier the penalty was tax and penalty 100%. You have to pay the applicable tax and the penalty, which was 100%. Now you are not required to pay the tax and penalty is not 100%, it is 200% of tax payable. So first understand that amount wise there is no change. So supposing the tax amount was 10 lakhs, so previously the tax was to be paid was 10 lakhs and penalty to be paid was 10 lakhs before the amendment. After the amendment, you have to pay penalty equal to 200% of the tax, 20 lakhs. So amount wise it is still the same, but now entire thing is now penalty. Again, this is CGST penalty. The same thing is true with SGST penalty and your IGST penalty. You will find that example given below. So what will be the scenario? Supposing the value of the goods is 10 lakhs, applicable GST is 28% and what you have paid is only 50,000, which means you have showed it as 5%. So applicable GST was 28%. If the owner is coming forward, so you are talking about a situation where the owner is coming forward for taxable goods. Amendment is only with respect to taxable goods. What is the current situation? There is no tax plus 100% penalty, it is only 200% penalty. So if at all it is intrastate supply, right? So what will be the tax? Intrastate supply, the tax would be CGST 14%. CGST would have been your 1,40,000. SGST would have been 1,40,000. This would have been the tax. So what will be the penalty now? So penalty will be CGST penalty 200% of CGST tax 2,80,000 and SGST penalty will be 200% of the SGST tax, which is 1,40,000 multiplied by 200%, 2,80,000. So tax would have been 1,40,000, but penalty is 200% of tax. CGST penalty 2,80,000, SGST penalty 2,80,000. What if it is interstate supply? If it is interstate supply, IGST would have been 2,80,000 because 28%. Now IGST penalty will be double, which means 200%. IGST penalty will be 5 lakh 60. So if it is intra-state supply, CGST penalty is 1 lakh 40 multiplied by 2, 2 lakh 80. SGST penalty is 1 lakh 40 multiplied by 2, 2 lakh 80, totaling to 5 lakh 60. If it is interstate supply, IGST penalty is 2 lakh 80 multiplied by 2, it is 5 lakh 60,000. This is the amendment in section 128, section 129 1A. What is section 129 1B? In case that the owner is not coming forward, the transporter will be treated as the deemed owner. Previously, the provision was you have to pay the applicable tax and penalty was equal to 50% of the value of the goods, reduced by the tax which is already paid. Now what they have done, they have again said that there is no question of any tax, there is only penalty and there is no reduction. So there is only and only penalty and there is no subtraction, there is no reduction. There is no reduction. So penalty is there. First of all, there is no tax. Second, penalty was 50% of the value of the goods minus tax paid. Now directly penalty is 50% of the value of the goods, no subtraction, or 200% of the tax payable. 200% of the tax payable, whichever is higher. Right. So previously you would have paid tax and penalty would have been equal to 50% of the value of goods minus tax which is already paid. Now there is only penalty and penalty which is equal to 50% of the value of goods, no subtraction, minus 0, no subtraction, or 200% of tax payable, whichever is higher. Now let us see this understanding. When the owner is not coming forward for taxable goods, the same question, 10 lakhs is the value, GST rate is 28% and already paid is 50,000. Now if the owner is coming forward, if the owner is not coming forward, if it is intrastate supply, what was the value of the goods? The value of the goods was 10 lakhs. The value of the goods was 10 lakhs. So 50% of the value of the goods is 10 lakhs or 200% of CGST or 200% of, if at all you are talking about CGST penalty, CGST was 1 lakh 40, whichever is higher. So here 50% of the value of the goods will come to your 5 lakhs or 200% of your CGST tax, which is 2 lakh 80,000, 2 lakh 80,000, whichever is higher. So what is higher? For CGST penalty it is 5 lakhs. Same thing will be worked out for SGST penalty. Now friends, when you talk about IGST penalty in such a case, you cannot take 50% of the value of here and all. For IGST you cannot do this working. For IGST penalty now, because it is based on value of the goods, it will be CGST penalty plus SGST penalty. Now you may ask why we cannot work out the same for IGST, because understand that when I say 50% of the value of the goods, right, so value of the goods, whether it is CGST or SGST or IGST, it is the same. So I cannot go with the same formula here. I have to add up IGST penalty. So whenever some penalty is based on the value of the goods, you have to find only CGST penalty and SGST penalty. IGST penalty will be addition of CGST penalty and SGST penalty, which will be 10 lakhs. So here I cannot work out this 50%. No, I will not work out that particular 50% here. So one needs to understand that here the workings would be a bit different. Otherwise you would have got an answer which is 5,60,000. How 50% of the value will remain 5 lakhs and your tax 200% of tax, which is 2,80,000, would be 5,60,000. No, here you are going to add it. So whenever there is any penal provision with respect to percentage of value of the goods, you find out CGST penalty, copy paste SGST penalty. For IGST penalty, add both. For IGST penalty you have to add both. So one needs to understand that particular angle, right? So this is the amendment which is brought out in your section 129 1b. So now they are telling that it is penalty, CGST penalty will be equal to 50% of the value of the goods or 200% of the tax payable. So tax payable will be that of your CGST. So CGST tax payable was 1,40,000, 200% of that is 2,80,000, 50% of the value of the goods is 5 lakh, whichever is higher, which is, now here it is whichever is higher, that you have to remember, not lower, not like your exempt goods where the term was whichever is lower. So here it is whichever is higher, 5 lakh, copy paste for SGST, and IGST will be addition of both. So that is the amendment which is brought out in your section 129(1). Now what are the other amendments which are brought out in your section 129? So you have section 129 subsection 2, which has been omitted, section 129 subsection 3, section 129 subsection 4. Understand that section 129 subsection 2 is omitted because the procedure about detention and seizure of goods which was given in section 129 subsection 2 now is incorporated in section 129 subsection 3. Therefore, there was no need of section 129 subsection 2. So you do not have section 129 subsection 2. It has been omitted. Previously they said that for procedural part refer section 67 subsection 6. Now that is not at all required. The procedure for detention and seizure is given in section 129 subsection 3 itself. Therefore the requirement of section 129 subsection 2 is no more there. So section 129 subsection 2 is omitted. Now when you talk about your section 129 subsection 3, they have totally changed it, replaced it. What is the amendment that they have brought? Previously the provisions was not clear. Now they have very specifically said that what will be the procedure. So proper officer who is detaining and seizing the goods and the conveyance first shall issue notice. Now notice shall be issued within 7 days of such detention or seizure. So first he has to issue notice which should be within 7 days of the detention or seizure, followed by, and that notice should tell the penalty payable thereafter, followed by order which shall be given within 7 days of the issuance of order. So what are they telling? They are telling that the procedure when you are talking about detention and seizure, within 7 days give notice and within 7 days give order. So the provisions have been made very simple. Procedure has been made very simple. So the moment you detain or seize the goods and conveyance, within 7 days give the notice, and after you give the notice within 7 days give the order. So they have made the provisions very clear. The procedure has been very clearly listed out, and the timeline was for giving notice and order is given. Earlier it was not there, but now they have given the timeline also. Procedure is there in section 129(3) itself, and timeline is now very clearly mentioned. Now you might tell that then what is the amendment in section 129 subsection 4? That is a correction amendment. The reference which was given to tax and interest in section 129 subsection 4 is no more required, because now section 129 deals only and only with penalty. So section 129 being purely a penal proceedings, there is no need of the wordings tax and interest. Therefore they have been removed. Tax and interest was causing, at least before the amendment of tax, interest was causing problem. Now there is no tax, there is no interest, there is only penalty. So the wordings tax and interest have been removed. So that is the amendment in your section 129 subsection 4. Now one might ask that, okay, is that all the amendment in section 129? No, there is another amendment in your section 129 subsection 6, again which is talking about the procedure. So understand that when the moment the goods are detained and seized, within 7 days you have to give notice, within 7 days you have to give order. So who will make the payment? Either if at all the owner is coming forward, he will make the payment. If owner is not coming forward, the transporter will be treated as deemed owner and he will be making the payment. If he is failing to make the payment within 15 days, within 15 days from the date of receipt of order, from the date of receipt of order under section 129 subsection 3, then the proper officer shall proceed to sell the goods and the conveyance. Sale or disposal will happen and recovery will happen in the manner prescribed. So recovery proceedings then will start as per your rule 144 capital A. Rule 144 capital A. Previously they were talking about 14 days and for detention of seizure and proceedings. Now that 14 days is indirectly there. How? After detention and seizure, within 7 days give the notice, and after giving notice within 7 days give the order. So previously there was no notice and order concept very clearly. It was there but not very clearly with the timings. Now what they have said? They have said that now after detention and seizure is there will be a notice which will be given within 7 days, and after notice there will be an order which will be given within 7 days. So talking about within 14 days from detention or seizure is making no sense. So after order is received, officer will wait for 15 days. Officer will wait for 15 days. Right. If at all you are not coming within 15 days, what officer will do? He will proceed to sell or dispose such goods and conveyance and recover the penalty payable, and that recovery will happen in terms of your rule 144 sub rule A. And friends, when you talk about conveyance, provided that the conveyance shall be released, if at all you are talking about only conveyance, it can be released by the transporter on payment of penalty as per section 129 subsection 3. So if at all you want to release a conveyance, you have to pay the penalty as per section 129 subsection 3 or 1 lakh, whichever is less. So for conveyance, they have now very clearly said that how you have to release the payment. So when you want to take the goods, we have discussed the penalty as per section 129 subsection section 129 1A and section 129 1B. But if you want to take the conveyance, you have to pay a penalty what you have discussed in section 129 or you are talking about 1 lakh, whichever is less. So the order amount or the penalty as per order or 1 lakh, whichever is less. That penalty for releasing the conveyance cannot be more than 1 lakh. In simple terms, they have said that for releasing the payment, the penalty amount cannot be more than 1 lakh. So this is whichever is lower, not whichever is higher, whichever is lower. And friends, understand that there is another amendment which is related to this particular point. Normally after detention seizure within 7 days there will be notice, after notice within 7 days there will be order, and thereafter officer has to wait for 15 days and then proceed for selling or disposing such goods and conveyance. But whenever you are talking about your perishable goods or hazardous goods or goods which are likely to depreciate in value with passage of time, that time limit of 15 days will be reduced by the officer. So this is a very common point. So if at all you want to understand the situation, after your detention or seizure of goods and conveyance, there will be notice. After notice, there will be order. What is the time limit that we have discussed just now? There will be time limit of 7 days for notice and 7 days for order. Now after that, officer will wait for 15 days and then he'll proceed for sale or disposal, and this 15 days will be lesser for perishable goods, hazardous goods and goods likely to depreciate. And when he is proceeding for that, after that he'll be giving notice for auction. He'll be giving notice for auction, right? And after that actual auction will happen. Actual auction or actual bidding will happen. So this notice for auction will be given by the proper officer after some time. So it might happen that after he has decided for within 15 days he can go for sale or disposal, but it might happen that he might take some time. So if the assessee is paying within this time limit, he has to pay only penalty. But here after 15 days, if at all, he will be given a second opportunity, that after 15 days of order but before notice, after 15 days of order but before notice, he can take the goods by paying penalty plus expenses for custody of that particular safe custody of the goods and handling the goods. So if he is paying within that 15 days of order, he has to pay only penalty. But if he is paying after 15 days of the order but before, what if he is paying after the moment he is paying after 15 days of the order, after 15 days of the order but before notice, this time gap, after 15 days of the order but before notice for auction, he has to pay penalty plus expenses and take the goods. And after notice is given for auction, minimum time limit for actual bidding or auction will be 15 days. This all is discussed in rule 144 capital A, will be 15 days. Obviously for perishable goods, hazardous goods and actual and goods likely to depreciate in value with passage of time, that 15 days will be reduced. Minimum time limit for actual action or bidding will be lesser. And after auction is done and the successful bidder is taking away the goods, and the successful bidder is taking away the goods, that successful bidder has to make the payment. That successful bidder has to make the payment within 15 days of the auction. And obviously for perishable goods, hazardous goods or goods likely to depreciate in value with passage of time, 15 days time will be reduced. So if you see the time limit, detention, seizure, 7 days notice, 7 days order. So this is given in your section 129 subsection 6, and all these things are given in your rule 144 capital A. What will be the procedure thereafter? Right, so this portion of section 129 and what are the amendments here we have discussed. Now friends, there is also an amendment in section 130. Friends, understand that previously section 129 and 130 the provisions were a bit confusing and there was no clarity much. Now they have made very clear points. So section 130 initially started with notwithstanding anything contained in this act. Now this notwithstanding anything contained in this act, which was there in section 130 subsection 1, is removed. Why is it removed? Because this non-obstante clause is removed because section 130 no longer overrides 129. So if at all the conveyance and the goods are in transit, it will be section 129. So they are no longer, it is not overriding section 129. Previously section 130 would have overridden section 129. So if at all the goods and conveyance are in movement and if section 130 proceedings are initiated, 129 could not have been initiated. Now they have said that both sections are applicable in different situations, in totally different situations. So one thing is made very clear, this non-obstante clause, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, is removed to tell that section 130 is not overriding section 129. Section 129 is applicable in a scenario when the goods and conveyance are in transit. 130 is applicable in different scenarios. The list of reasons are given in section 130. Second amendment is there in your second proviso to section 130 subsection 2. In section 130 you will find there is penalty as well as fine. There will be both. So what are they trying to tell? The aggregate of this fine and penalty, earlier it used to tell that shall not be less than the penalty as per section 129. Shall not be less than the penalty as per 129. So previously this was linked to your section 129 penalty. So aggregate of fine and penalty in section 130 should be more than or equal to penalty as per section 129. Now it is made very clear that 129 is applicable in a different situation, 130 is applicable in a different situation. Right, situation of 129 is goods and conveyance are in transit. 130 there are list of reasons when 130 will be applicable. Both are independent of each other now. So linking it with 129 was not making any sense. Therefore what they have said, the aggregate of fine and penalty under section 130 shall not be less than penalty equal to 100% of tax payable. So now they are telling that whatever is fine and penalty as per section 130, previously it used to tell that it should be more than, it should be more than penalty as per section 129. Now as it is no more interconnected, both are independent. Now it is telling that it should be minimum more than the penalty, which is equal to 200% of tax payable. More than penalty, rather not 200%, your pardon, more than penalty which is equal to 100% of tax. So the aggregate of fine and penalty as per section 130, total of that amount should be more than or equal to penalty which is 100% of tax payable on such goods. Right. So what is the amendment brought here? Section 130 is now de-linked with 129. Therefore, the minimum amount of fine and penalty now is penalty which is 100% of taxable. So calculate the fine as per section 130. Calculate the penalty as per section 130. That total of both these things should be more than or equal to penalty which is 100% of tax payable on such goods. Now there's another amendment is in section 130 subsection 3. Now friends, what is this amendment? They have removed the section 130 subsection 3. Now one might ask, why have they removed the section 131 subsection 3? Understand that section 130 subsection 3 was topping something about taxes and other charges payable. As you know that now section 130 is purely a penal provision. So there will be confiscation, and if you want to take back your goods, you have to pay redemption fine and penalty. So now it is purely a penal section, confiscation and a penal section. So talking about tax and other charges payable was not making any sense. Therefore, they have removed that reference. So when you are paying a fine in lieu of confiscation, to avoid confiscation, you are paying a fine. The owner of the goods or conveyance shall, in addition to tax, penalty and charges payable, pay that redemption fine. Now what are they trying to tell? They are telling that this provision 130 will only and only talk about the fine and penalty. It won't talk anything about your tax, other charges payable, etc. They thought that this section 130 subsection 3, which was linking it with the tax and other charges payable, was causing a bit of confusion, and it was not required. Rather than the confusion, it was not at all required, because section 130 is pure penal provision, penalty provision. So talking about taxes and other charges payable was not making any sense. Thus section 130 subsection 3 has been omitted. So what are the amendments that has happened in section 130? First, non-obstanding clause is removed to tell that 129 is applicable separately, 130 is applicable separately, both in different situations. Second, the aggregate of fine and penalty in section 130 is no more linked to 129. It is minimum, it should be up to a penalty which is 100% of taxable. Third, talking about tax and other charges payable under section 130 subsection 3 was not making any sense. Therefore, the entire subsection, which is subsection 3 of section 130 has been omitted. So that is all about your amendments in your offences and penalties in your section 129 and section 130. Now friends, let us discuss the miscellaneous provisions where there is amendment for your November 2022 exams. Small amendments are there in your miscellaneous provisions chapter. The first amendment has come in your section 151, which basically talks about power to collect statistics. Now you will find out that the old provision has been replaced by a new provision, where the new provision basically tells the commissioner or any officer authorized by him by an order direct any person to furnish information relating to any manner. So he has to furnish information relating to any manner in connection with the act within such time and such form and in such manner as may be specified in that notice. Now one may find that, okay, what amendment has come in by replacing this provision section 151? Previously, understand that before the amendment, commissioner was required to give a notification. After the amendment, such requirement of giving notification is no more there. So before the amendment, it was only commissioner, and that too he has to give notification. Now it is either commissioner or an authorized officer directly without any notification by an order may direct the person to furnish information. So first amendment is the requirement of giving notification by commissioner is ruled out. So previously there was only commissioner who can ask for information, and that too after notification. Now commissioner or authorized officer. So now it is not only commissioner or the authorized officer, and directly by an order require any person to furnish information. So requirement of notification is not there. Now before the amendment, previously the information was collected basically for statistics. Now this information can be collected for any matter. After the amendment, you can collect information for any matter. Any information may be collected. It might not be necessary for statistical purposes. So before the amendment, it was only commissioner's job. By notification, and information was collected only for statistical purposes. After the amendment, it is commissioner or authorized officer. No need of any notification, directly by an order they can call for information, and that information is not only for statistical purposes, it can be for any purposes. Any information can be asked for. So that is the amendment in section 151. Now the next amendment is there in section 152, which talks about bar on disclosure of information. So whatever information is collected, there will be a restriction. So there is an amendment in your section 152 subsection 1. Now previously, no information, there were wordings were of any individual written or part thereof. So first they have removed that individual written or part thereof because it was not making any sense. It is talking about any kind of information, because now you can collect any information. You can collect any information. So the reference of individual written or part thereof is removed. So no information with respect to any matter given under section 150 or 151. So you are talking about information given as per your section 150, which is information written, or 151, which is collecting information. That information without the previous consent in writing of the concerned person or his authorized representative shall be published in a manner so as to enable such particulars to be identified as referring to that particular person. So that supposing I am a person who is required to give information written as per section 150, or I have been called by the commissioner or authorized officer to give some information for any purposes. My information without my permission should not be disclosed or published in such a manner referring to my name. So if it is generally given, it is not a problem, but if that information is published identifying my name, they should take my written permission. And the next part, no such information shall be used for any proceedings. So this was the first part, and the second part was telling that no such information shall be used for any proceedings. So first, they shall not publish my information without my written consent, with my name. So supposing if at all my information is published with my name, it should be only possible after I give a consent in writing. So if at all it is my particular personal information about my businesses which they have got through section 150 or which they have got through section 120, 151, if they want to publish it with disclosing the company's name, my name or the company's name, then they should take my written permission. That is first part. Second part was very interesting. In second part was telling that such information shall not be used for any proceedings. Now what is the amendment? Now they have said that no such information shall be used for any proceedings under this act without giving an opportunity. Indirectly, after giving an opportunity, such information can be used for proceedings. After giving an opportunity, such information which the department has collected in terms of section 150 or 151 shall be used for any proceedings, but after giving an opportunity. After giving an opportunity. And friends, when you're talking about section 152 subsection 2, so this entire subsection has been removed. Why? So when you're talking about section 152 subsection 2, basically I was if at all any such information is used against me for taking any proceedings or action against me, previously it was not allowed, now it is allowed. After giving an opportunity, that can be used. So what has been done here is The tax authorities previously, when they are having information as per section 150 or 151, including they collect that information including for investigation, audit or any preventive purposes. Previously, action was initiated after processing this information, but the section which was there before amendment, it was telling that you cannot take any proceedings against on the basis of such information. So previously, when such action was taken, it was not within the powers of section 152, because section 152 says that if you are collecting any information as per section 150 or section 151, you might publish it with the company's name but with the previous consent of the company, but you cannot use it for any proceedings. Now you can also use it for proceedings. There was a restriction for not using against any proceedings, but after the amendment, this information can be used for any proceedings after giving it an opportunity. Therefore, the requirement of section 152 subsection 2 is no more there, and it has been omitted. In a very simple manner, whenever there was an information as per section 150 or 151 previously, you cannot use it against any proceedings. Now officer may use it for any against any proceedings against the same company, but after giving an opportunity. So when that is that, the scope has been widened. They are telling that we are not going to disclose your data. So as far as confidentiality is concerned, it is still intact. As far as confidentiality is concerned, it is still intact. Confidentiality remains. So publishing your company's name with your details will be only after your consent. So confidentiality is remaining. But as far as taking any proceedings, initially they used to tell that it cannot be used for any proceedings. Now it can be used for any proceedings. Previously you cannot use it for any proceedings. Now they have said that when you have got that information and it is very clear that that information is telling you something, that there is something wrong in that company, you please start the proceedings. Previously that was not allowed, that now that has been allowed. Right friends, now we are talking about your amendment in section 168 subsection 2. So we are talking about power to issue instructions or directions. So when you are talking about powers to issue instructions or directions, previously, in this particular provision, the commissioner, in many cases wherever commissioner is being used, that refers to commissioner or joint secretary in the board, and such commissioner or joint secretary in the board shall exercise the powers after the approval of the board. So wherever they have mentioned the commissioner in these provisions, they are talking about commissioner or joint secretary of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes, and such commissioner and joint secretary of Central Board of Indirect Taxes shall exercise the powers which are mentioned in these many sections only with the approval of the board. Now you might ask, what is the amendment? Previously, one of the section which was mentioned in your section 168 subsection 2 was section 44 subsection 1. Now they have said that it is section 44. Now the section 44 subsection 1 has become section 44, annual return. So there is no subsection 1. Therefore, they are talking about the new subsection. So first, when you are talking about exemption from annual return, commissioner can grant exemption from your annual return on the basis of recommendation of GST Council. Previously the reference was to section 44 subsection 1, but now that section itself is amended and you have only section 44. So that being the case, the reference is given only to section 44. The next amendment, previously you are talking about section 151 subsection 1. Now then this section 151 subsection 1 is omitted. Understand that in section 151 subsection 1, commissioner or the authorized officer directly by order can ask any person to give any information for any purposes. They need not take the approval of the board. So what has happened after the amendment which was there in section 151, commissioner or authorized officer directly without any notification can ask for information from any person for any matter. Therefore, reference of section 151 subsection 1 and section 168, if at all it is in section 168, it means they have to get the approval of the board. Now there is no need of approval of the board. There's no need for any approval of the board. There's no need for any notification. But for annual return, obviously there will be need for approval of the board, and obviously there will be notification. So there are two small amendments. One, section 44(1) is now replaced at section 44 because of the new section 44. Second, reference to section 151 subsection 1 is removed because now section 151 subsection 1, commissioner or authorized officer himself can give an order. So they need not take any approval from the board, and also there is no need of any notification. So these are the amendments which are brought out in section 168. And the last set of amendments in your miscellaneous provision is to your anti-profiteering clause, where you are talking about your rule 137. Right, previously the tenure of anti-profiteering authority was 4 years. Now the tenure of anti-profiteering authority is 5 years. See, this anti-profiteering was brought out when GST was introduced, telling that even after introduction of GST, though the cost has decreased, many persons will keep the same selling price, getting more profit. So when GST was brought out, it was very much clear that your ITC will be more your ITC, lesser will be the cost. Lesser will be the cost means you should reduce your selling price. But with reduction of cost, if you keep the same selling price, you are getting extra profit. So when your cost is reduced but you are keeping your selling price the same, you get extra profit. Therefore, they said that many companies will do this anti-profiteering, extra profit. And what is the problem of the government? Government said that when you are bringing GST, people should know the advantages of GST. That more ITC is there, cost is reduced, therefore selling price will be reduced, and public should feel that happiness. But there will be few companies who will try to take the advantage that though my cost is reduced, if I keep the same selling price, I will get that extra profit. To tackle that challenge, government brought out anti-profiteering clause. And who will see whether there is an anti-profiteering by a company or not? That will be seen by anti-profiteering authority. Previously, the tenure of anti-profiteering authority was 4 years. Now they have said that no, it is 5 years. So tenure of anti-profiteering authority is now increased. Previously it was 4 years. Now it has been increased to 5 years. So that is all about the amendments in your miscellaneous provisions.